Hi everyone, my name is Danielle. I'm one of the founders of Sakara, and I am so excited to be here with you all. I'm going to spend some time answering some of my most frequently asked questions from you all. So let's get started. One of the most common questions is, tell me about your transition from conventional to functional medicine. How long do we have? No, I'm kidding. So I studied pre-med, and I knew at a young age I wanted to be in the practice of healing people, of helping people. My mom was really sick when I was a kid, and so I witnessed how conventional Western medicine really helped her, but also very much kind of harmed her and set her out on the wrong path at times. So as I said, I studied pre-med here in New York City, and I ended up interning in a hospital up in Harlem, and I worked with a cardiologist for about 2 years. And we saw patients with late-stage lifestyle diseases most of the time. And I had this aha moment probably about a year in, where I realized we were seeing all these patients with lifestyle diseases, and they were oftentimes so late stage. I mean, I'm working with a cardiologist, so it was already systemic at that point. And it was kind of after the fact where we could really impact their lifestyle and therefore their disease and the manifestation of their disease. And I had my own personal rock bottom around that time. I had spent my entire life yo-yo dieting and ended up with pretty severe IBS. And so I finished my internship and I decided to switch to nutrition and really at the time focus on how to heal myself and my IBS symptoms, and also really want to kind of go upstream and help people either before they have a lifestyle disease or before it's late stage. So from there I decided to study nutrition. I built Sakara, and now after about 10 years in, I really wanted to dig deeper. So I decided to get my master's. So I'm doing my master's right now. I'm more than halfway done now, which I'm very excited about. And I'm doing a program that is with the University of Western States. And I'm very fortunate that it's all online because I'm a mother, I'm an executive, an entrepreneur, a founder. So I really get to kind of tailor it to the kind of time that I can give it. What are you or have you been learning about in the program? Oh man, I have to say it's really, really fun. And I will caveat by saying I don't feel like I've learned brand new material because this has been my career path my whole life. But what I'm learning are the details and the mechanisms and the why. So, I fully understand kind of like what the role of mitochondria play in overall human health and physiology and cellular metabolism. But what I'm learning right now, for example, is exactly how these mitochondria work, what they do, the molecules they create, and then how that cascade affects overall health. And when you start to learn those details, it's amazing to just start to see how the puzzle of life fits in, where you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I should probably eat my greens. But then you can zoom in and think oh wow, calcium is critical to mitochondrial function. And this is what it does in the mitochondria. And so to have that kind of macro view and micro view at the same time. And then others are a little bit more kind of broad. So I did a class on the microbiome, and that was really deep into the latest literature around the microbiome, around probiotics, prebiotic, postbiotics, what it means, what the literature says, what we know, what we don't know. So that was more of a landscape class, which I also really appreciate. But I'd say overall, the master's program for me is a way to make sure I'm incredibly up to speed on the literature and also deeply understand the mechanics behind some of the things that I already was familiar with but didn't know in such detail. What resources, people do you use for knowledge? So beyond getting my master's, I hope you know this by now, but we have a Sakara Life podcast. And I was so excited to start the podcast because we have so many amazing people in our circle, so many brilliant minds. And we were so fortunate to be having these amazing conversations with some of the world's greatest healers and doctors and scientists. And I wanted and Whitney wanted to as well share it with you all. And so I learn a lot in those podcasts. We tend to kind of spike around the sciences, but we also have spiritual leaders, doctors who kind of like span both the spirit and the science. So if you're curious about some of the people that we look to for inspiration, for knowledge, I'd say go to our podcast. Also, many times these guests have books, which I highly recommend. One of my favorite both podcasts and experts is Dr. Robin Chutkin. She's one of the world's premier gastroenterologists. She is a microbiome specialist, and she's written several books. And she does a really nice job of kind of going deep into the science, but also making it very applicable. So I recommend a lot of her books to people. Also Dr. Aviva Ram, especially if you're interested in women's health. She has some incredible books. One of her most recent is Hormone Intelligence. And again, she does a really beautiful job. I mean, she's written textbooks. She does a really beautiful job of going deep into the science, but also helping us understand why the science even matters and what it means for me in my life. And my favorite part about all of this knowledge I'm gaining, the hours I spend in my master's program, the hours we spend talking to the world's leading health experts, is that we bring it all back to what we do here at Sakara. Everything that we learn has an impact on the decisions we make for your health, my health, Whitney's health, and it's really important to us because we've made a promise, and that promise we take very seriously. We're here to help you transform your life and give you the tools to really sit in the driver's seat of your health. Okay, another question, how do you balance it all? I get this question all the time. I think it's both such a funny question, and also I get why people ask it. I don't know what balance is, so I really don't know how to answer that. I tend to really try and listen and know when I'm burnt out and listen to that. But my day-to-day, I don't think about how to balance my life. I try and follow the things that bring me joy. And so, for example, I have 2 small kids. In order for me to say bye to them every single day and come to this office, the Sakara office, and do this work every single day, it has to fill me with joy because my kids are a top priority for me. And so if I'm leaving them, it has to be for something that means something to me, something that gives me a sense of purpose. And, for a long time, I wouldn't say I struggled, but I asked myself, is it okay to leave my kids? What am I doing? And I came to this conclusion. I always want them to make choices in their life that help them find their joy, that help them feel fulfilled. And if I wasn't doing that for myself, I would not be setting the example that I want for them. So all to say, I don't know what balance is, except find the things that fill you up and try and do that most of the time. I also have things that I know I need to do in order to feel good, and those are things like I make sure that I eat really well. That is a non-negotiable for me because for most of my life, I did not eat well, and I didn't know how okay I was with just feeling okay. And so now that I feel great, I fight for that. I don't feel like I have to fight for it anymore because it comes so easily, but there are definitely moments in my life where I'm stressed, etc., and I realize I kind of have to come back to my home base and my core. Another thing is I am home for dinner and bedtime with my kids almost every single night. There are, of course, evenings where I can't be, but I'd say I've probably done bedtime for them about 93% of their life, and that feels really important to me. And those are the things that help me feel like maybe I'm living a balanced life, but I couldn't make you a promise about that. Okay, what are the tools in my toolkit to help me feel really good all the time? First of all, I don't feel good all of the time. That is not true for anyone. If they're telling you that, it's a lie. I certainly have off days, but I would say I finally feel like I'm in a place in my life where I do know what that toolkit is, and I think it's one of the most powerful things we can do for ourselves. When I was really struggling with my health and body image, I didn't have that toolkit, and so it makes life feel scarier because then if you do something like go on vacation and have too many bottles of wine and chocolate croissants, it's like you're so scared and terrified and full of guilt because you don't have the toolkit to get you back to feeling centered and good. And so that toolkit has been a really, really powerful thing for me in my life. I'm sure you all can guess the most important tool for me is food. Every time we sit down to eat, it's an opportunity to both acknowledge our worth as humans, to feel really good in our bodies, and also a way to honor ourselves and nourish. So I don't take it lightly, both for myself and my family. I also don't stress about it. Like, I definitely had a croissant for breakfast this morning. Those types of things bring me joy. I don't have rules anymore about what I can and can't eat, but I always choose things that are going to make me feel good. And I eat Sakara for at least 2 meals out of the day every single day, sometimes 3 if I'm doing one of the resets, or sometimes I'll share my dinner with my family as like a side at the dinner table. Another tool in my toolkit is moving my body. And I will tell you guys, I used to be one of those people that thought I had to run miles and, like sweat and kind of like kill myself at the gym. And one of my biggest learnings happened postpartum, when that wasn't really an option and I was too tired to work out in the way I used to. And I just started walking a lot. I probably walk anywhere from 3 to 7 miles every single day. And also I do Pilates, which has just transformed my body and given me this kind of core, and not just abs, but like a true core that helps me move in the world in a different way. Both posture, height, everything. So find a movement that really helps you feel like you're at home in your body. It doesn't have to be a fight. Another tool in my toolkit is deep, deep, deep connections. I've been very fortunate to have women in my life that I now call sisters, and that sisterhood is something that fills me up. And so I prioritize time and making sure I show up for them and we show up for each other. And that kind of sisterhood has completely changed my life and reminded me almost like how safe it is in the world when you have that kind of net around you to hold you up.